We are moving over now to Newcore. Newcore Gold is advancing its NC Gold project in the gold-rich country of Ghana. And we are joined by Luke Alexander. He is president and CEO, and he's here to talk about how his team is growing resources along one of West Africa's most prolific gold trends. Now, Luke brings an extensive resource sector experience to Newcore, particularly in West Africa. He's raised billions of dollars and structured deals for major mining companies while advising some of the world's top institutional investment funds. He began his investment banking career in the private client group at BMO Nesbitt Burns in Toronto. Then he started up an equity trading desk for Toronto Dominion in London before doing the same for National Bank. In 2008, he became senior partner at GMP Securities in London. And throughout his investment banking career, he helped fund many major resource projects in West Africa. In 2018, he founded Park Royal Capital, which is a Vancouver-based natural resource-focused consulting company, where he continued to leverage those relationships he developed over the years. Luke, welcome to the Global Mining Symposium. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Anthony. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Wow, it's great to have you. Are you joining us? Where are you joining us from? Are you in Vancouver?
Vancouver, yep. Excellent. I've been in Vancouver about 4 years, was 12 years in London prior to that, as you highlighted.
Fantastic. Well, I see the sun coming through that window, so it looks like we have great weather right across the country. So
yeah,
that is a good thing. That bodes well for all of us. Listen, Luke, very interested and very excited to listen to this deck. So I turn it over to you, and away we go. I'll come back with some questions at the end.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. I mean, first thing I'll just highlight is I will be making some forward-looking statements. Next thing is I'll just touch on, I mean, our Enchi project, as you highlighted, is in Ghana. It's an advanced stage exploration project on a district scale property with a number of good neighbors in country. So I'll highlight a lot of the reasons why we think Newcore is a great opportunity to invest in. First and foremost, the management team involved. I mean, you talked about my background, but the entire management team and board have a proven track record of making shareholders a lot of money. We're extremely well institutionally backed. We currently have about 35% ownership. I mean, a number of those groups are groups that I worked with for a 10 or 15 year period while I was working out of London and working more on the sell side of the business. Management's extremely well aligned with shareholders through our 32% ownership in the business. I think that's important because we're ultimately good stewards of your capital. Ghana is a tier 1 jurisdiction, and we can highlight a few of those things as we go through the presentation. We currently sit on a 1.2 million ounce resource. That's primarily in the oxide category, and we are in the middle of a 66,000 meter drill program. That's the largest ever on this project, and ultimately we think will significantly add to that resource. We also have a very good capital structure, which is hugely important in terms of pushing the company forward. Looking at the management team and board, I mean, most of the people on the call here will recognize a lot of these companies. These are all companies that the team's been involved in as either the management team or on the board of directors. So it's very, very important to have a strong team. We're also very well supported from a capital markets perspective. I mean, you can have the best project in the world, but if you don't have the money to push it forward, then it's ultimately worthless. We're very fortunate to have about 35% institutional ownership. A few of those groups are listed down here. These are groups that our team's been close to for a number of years and share ultimately our vision of this being a district scale project and multi-million ounce potential. We're also very well supported from a number of tier 1 investment banks. These 5 groups here currently cover us from a research perspective, and that's nice to have in terms of obviously the advice they provide and access to capital markets. Looking at our market cap, we currently sit at about $57 million Canadian and have about $13 million of cash at the end of the year. Looking at Ghana, it's a tier 1 jurisdiction to be operating in. It's the 7th largest gold producer globally. It's Africa's largest gold producer, produces 5 million ounces per year. With that, there's a huge amount of skilled labor in country for us to draw upon. It's ultimately important for the economy, the tax base, and as a result, you've got a very supportive government. We're located physically in the southwest corner of Ghana. There's two prolific gold belts that run through Ghana, the Ashanti Belt and the Sefwi-Bibiani Belt, which we're situated on. There's been over 200 million ounces of gold discovered in Ghana historically. So it is a very prolific country to be exploring in. We've got great neighbors along the Sefwi-Bibiani Belt from us. Directly to the north, 50 kilometers away, you've got Kinross's Chirano mine, which sits at an endowment of 5.5 million ounces. Bibiani to the north of that at 6.5 million ounces. And then Newmont at 15.5 million ounces, sitting just to the north of us. Interestingly, Newmont has 18% of their total global production comes from Ghana. So I think that highlights what a great jurisdiction it is to be operating in. Our asset actually butts up against the Cote d'Ivoire border, and directly on the other side, you've got the Afema asset, which if you followed Teranga, you'll know that it's now owned by Endeavour, and they've been talking extremely positively about that. Looking at our Enchi project in a little bit more detail, we've got a very large land package, 216 square kilometers in size. We've identified 25 targets across the property, of which we've only been able to drill on 6 of them so far, and 3 of them make up our current resource. From the northern end to the southern end, it's about 40 kilometers in length. We've got very good infrastructure on our project. We've got a paved road and highway which runs directly through it to the town of Enchi. Enchi's got about 15,000 people in it, so it's got all the kind of support services we could want to ultimately push our project forward, but it's also far enough away that we don't ever anticipate any issues in terms of bringing it into production. Our core shack sits here on the side of this paved road. You can drive 110 kilometers along this road, power line on the other side, gas station, 10-minute drive down this dirt road. You're standing on top of our Boeing deposit, another 5 minutes from there on top of Siyum. So we always like to highlight infrastructure because a lot of people sometimes think of Africa as being in the middle of nowhere, which couldn't be further from the truth for us. Our current asset, we sit at a 1.22 million ounce resource, which I highlighted. One of the things we also like to talk about is obviously all of the historical RC and diamond drilling that feeds that current resource is about 50,000. So needless to say, our current 66,000 meter program is the largest ever, and we think will ultimately significantly add to that resource as we complete it. The other thing for any experienced mining investors on this call is that 95% of our current resource sits within the oxide and transitional zone, which you'll appreciate lends itself to a heap leach operation, which is obviously a much lower CapEx way of producing gold. Looking here at our Enchi project in a bit more detail. So on the right-hand side, you've got a map with the 25 targets and resource areas and previously drilled areas outlined. So again, district scale opportunity. At the top of the pyramid, we've got our current resource areas, and this is how we're ultimately systematically approaching our exploration, looking to expand at our existing resource areas, going back to previously tested areas. In the next couple of months, we'll be drilling some new targets for the first time ever, with the goal of ultimately moving all of these up the pyramid and into the resource category, but at the same time continuing to expand the overall size of our current deposits. Looking at our current drill program to date, we've completed 33,000 meters, which the math is pretty simple on that, represents 50% of the total planned drilling. So we will have lots of drill results out in the next few months, which is something that we think will be a catalyst for the stock. We're also in the process of drilling some of the first deep holes on the project, and deep for us is only down to 250 to 350 meters. We're also in the midst of completing a PEA. We will have that out in the next month and a half by the end of Q2, which again, we think could be a very good catalyst for the company. Looking at our 3 resource areas, Boeing, Siyum, and Nyam, I'll just highlight that the average depth of the pits that I'm going to show you is only down to 50 meters. So again, sits within that oxide transitional zone. I'll start here at Boeing, and this is ultimately the case for all of our deposits. They remain, so Boeing sits at about 530,000 ounces, and it'll pop up on your screen here in a second. 530,000 ounces. It remains open along strike, as well as we've got some very large gap areas that we've drilled out, and then remains completely open at depth. The next area I'll take you to is Symposium. This is our largest deposit. It sits at 535,000 ounces. Again, remains open along strike. You can see some of the drilling here that we've done, highlighted by these yellow drill holes. Again, very large gap area here that we've now drilled into, and we'll look to ultimately add resource in that area once we are able to get that updated. And then the last of our three resource areas is Niam, sits at 155,000 ounces. You can see this is from our these pits here are from our 2020 resource, significantly added to the north. We've started to add to the south, and then we've had a great success with the deeper drilling that we've done. Why that deeper drilling is important is because when we look here at a long section of our Enchi project and compare it to the Kinross mine, Chirano, 50 kilometers to the north of us, what we see with these greenstone hosted deposits is they really grow in size once you drill below the oxide level. Again, 95% of our resource currently sits above this level. And with some of the deeper drilling that we've started to do, we've started to have some very exciting results. Looking here at this cross section at Niam, this is the deepest hole ever drilled at Niam, down to kind of 175, 200 meters. And once we got down to that level, you can see 5.4 grams at 9 meters. Similarly, over at Quachikrum, which is one of our deeper holes, really nice oxide material near surface. And as we got into these sulfides down at 100, 125 meters below surface, started to encounter some nice higher grade. So we're starting to show that, with this deeper drilling, there's a real big opportunity for us to ultimately increase the grades and ultimately extend potential mine life. So just to recap, top tier management and board truly aligned through our 32% ownership in the business. Very strong capital market support with 35% institutional ownership and 5 tier 1 investment banks covering us. Ghana as a tier 1 jurisdiction. Nice 1.2 million ounce resource, primarily in the oxides for us to grow off of. Look for lots of drill results as well as an updated PEA for catalysts in the coming months.
Excellent stuff. Well, that's what we like to hear. More drilling and a PEA. That's exactly what the Northern Miner Investor audience is looking for. Now, Luke, a similar question that I had for Matt Halliday earlier on the silver cobalt. As you said, you're in one of the most prolific gold belts really in the world, Ashanti and Bibiani. This is as good as it gets in a lot of ways. So how is it that you come to this property and that it wasn't drilled off into the sulfide zones before, that only the oxide was done?
In terms of there's been various owners of it over the years. As Newcore, previously Pinecrest, we've owned it for about 10 years and done work on it over those years. But ultimately having the support now from the capital markets and institutional investors has obviously allowed us to kick off the biggest ever drill program on the project. The focus has always been on the oxides just because they are such economic ounces. And you look at a lot of the deposits, that's how they started, as ultimately heap leach projects. But now, as you could see with that long section that I showed you, we're starting to look at showing the potential at depth as well, which if you look at Kinross's Chirano mine, they're currently producing down to 750 meters. They've drilled down to 1.1, 1.2 kilometers. So even our 250 to 350 meters below surface drilling that we've got planned is still just scratching the surface, but it starts to show that potential in the sulfides as we grow the overall size of the resource.
Very interesting. Very interesting. It's exciting times for sure. You see the stock there is kind of in a consolidating pattern, which is kind of nice. That's kind of where investors want to get in there, especially those drill results will probably make it, you get some good results there. You're probably going to get a pretty strong reaction, I would think. One last thing, Luke, here. You mentioned Endeavor. Obviously, they've been on a really strong acquisition path, consolidating a lot in the area. They're just on the other side there with their last acquisition of Teranga. What's your take on M&A activity in that part of the world? Do you see it continuing to heat up?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of M&A activity. I mean, Cardinal Resources, if we want to talk about Ghana specifically, I mean, that was a full-on bidding war between Shandong and Nord Gold, which are both, multi-billion dollar companies. And I think that speaks to the desire to get into Ghana. And I think if you look at the metrics of that takeout, you compare them to where we're trading today, you can see the upside opportunity for us to continue to expand the overall size of our resource and then ultimately wrap economics around that. And I mean, just on your point from a trading perspective, I mean, if you look at our stock this year, and I put on my former institutional equity trading hat, it's been trading in a really tight range from kind of 60 to 65 cents. We've chewed through about 9 million shares, 9.5 million shares since January 1st, with an average VWAP of about 62 cents a share. So I think you highlighted it. I mean, there's been a real consolidation, lots of kind of support stepping in at these levels. And as we see gold starting to push $1,900, I think, as you highlighted, there's a real re-rate opportunity from here. So that's something that we're excited about.
Fantastic. Great story, Luke. Well presented as well. We'll watch with great interest and look forward to seeing those drill results. And that we did have a question regarding the PEA, but you've hit upon it. The PEA is coming out later this year. Do you have an idea?
No, sorry, later this quarter. It's going to be in the
later
next
this quarter.
Yeah, by the end of June, so the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Fantastic. There we go. Glad we got that one straight away. Awesome, Luke. Listen, you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Anthony.
Cheers.